turnout this morning. Appreciate this. Thanks to all the candidates for showing up. I'm Diane Conaway. This group is actually Mountain Area Democrats. We are doing this as a nonpartisan community service today, so just want to welcome everybody. We do have name tags over here, and the email list, I'll just, full disclosure, that's for Mountain Area Democrats. If you want to get on our list, we welcome you and be happy to add you. But if you wrote your name down and you don't want to be on the list, you can come cross it off and no harm, no foul, no problem. So we're going to get started. I do want to, for our regular attendees, remind you that next month, because of Memorial Day, we're meeting on the third Saturday, the 17th, instead of the fourth Saturday. So it'll be the 17th, and we have Danielle Varda from Jeffco Schools coming. Everybody's welcome. You don't have to be Democrat, but Danielle Varda from Jeffco Schools is going to come and talk. And Danielle is actually not going to run for school board again in 26. She is going to run for HD 27 because of Brianna Titone is term limited, and Brianna's running for state treasurer. So that's the progression. So, and then Tammy Story, our representative here in HD 25, is going to give a legislative update because session should be over by then. Hopefully they're not going into special session. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ed, and we can talk about what our agenda is going to be and how we're going to run this thing.
Super. Thank you, Diane. My name is Kate Darrell, and I'm the moderator for today. And we are here to discuss with the candidates for the EPRD board their positions. The election is on May 6th, and you can, I'll just read this from the website. The election is on May 6th, and there will be 3 positions vacant. You could vote for 1, 2, or 3 people, but no more than 3. And the polls will be open at Buchanan Park Rec Center from 7 to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there's no polling at Wulf this year? Correct. Okay. Okay, and then those of you who are registered to get absentee ballots or mail-in ballots should have gotten them by now. And Betsy was kind enough to bring along. Yeah, it's with the application for an absentee ballot, which is due on Monday.
It's kind of due on Monday, so I would say if you want an absentee ballot, take the form, you fill it out, and send a picture of it via email in. They'll mail you a ballot, but that ballot will come to you with the names on it, and then you just have to vote before May 6th. And it can be dropped off at the admin building, which is over there by the community gardens.
Up at Buchanan Park. You can also go to the election web or the election page on the EPRD website. Let's see. The deadline to submit this absentee ballot application is 4 o'clock on Tuesday, actually. Let's see. In addition to these candidates, 3 to be elected, one current board member has now resigned, and so that's going to be handled when the new board is elected. They will have a process, and I've been through this process before, so I'm familiar with it, but they will have a process to select somebody to fill that vacant seat. Okay. I just wanted to let you all know, in case you're not all familiar with Evergreen Park and Recreation District, just a brief summary of what it's about. And then we'll introduce our candidates and allow them some time to speak. The rules for this forum are 5 minutes to answer, for them to present their bios, and then we'll have a question and answer session. When we get into the question and answer session, I will ask you to stand up, say your name, state your favorite Evergreen Park or Recreation facility or park, just so we know that you're here, you know what we are, and then ask your question. And each candidate will have the opportunity, will have 2 minutes to answer the question. Diane is our trusty timekeeper, and a big hook will come out and yank you out of your seat if you violate that time. You can pass also if it's a question you don't want to answer. And at about 10:15, each candidate can summarize their thoughts. And so hopefully we can adjourn by 10:25 or so. And if you want to hang around afterwards and talk individually to the candidates, we can do that. Evergreen Park and Recreation District was established in January of 1969 through a grassroots effort and vote in this area. It covers 78 square miles, which is a lot of turf. And the first amenity was the recreation center behind the high school, Wulf Rec Center, with a pool. Now, there are 2 recreation centers, both with pools and other water amenities, fitness rooms, a gym, gymnastic space, dance room, meeting rooms, showers and lockers, cold showers and lockers, other activity rooms. There is the lake house with ice skating, boat rental, and event space, and the lake itself and the trail around it. There are numerous parks from Marshdale to the south to Buchanan to the north, with playground, sports fields, trails, skateboard areas, disc golf course, outdoor art, tennis, and pickleball courts. Evergreen Park and Recreation District serves about 23,000 people. And that's a very brief history of Evergreen Park and Recreation District. Okay, so we're going to start now with the bios on each candidate. You'll have 5 minutes each, and we'll go in alphabetical order, but then the first question from the audience will start with Jeffrey. Third question will start with Aaron, so we'll just go like that, rotate, so nobody gets to be first all the time. Okay, so Peter, are you ready?
Sure. Here I am. So, like most of us, I suspect, I invited myself here to live in 1971. I think a lot of us are not born here and have moved here because of really what's so beautiful about Evergreen. I met my wife here, Peggy, still in love after 50 years, and I have 4 children, all of whom are grown and gone. A few still live here in Colorado, and actually 3 out of 4. So, I went to work in Denver in 1973, and regrettably, I've been a commuter ever since. And I get up and leave Evergreen every single day. Although I recently sold my business, and now I'm retired. But in 1992, Hank Alder called me up on the telephone and says, "Pete, you need to run for the rec board because we're building the lake house, and you're the only other one on the rec board that knows construction. So you need to run and help me with this." And I just caught the bug. In 1992, I ran and won. Served until 2000.
Peter, could you project your voice a little bit better?
I'm sorry, I'm a little.
Would it help if you stood up?
Yes.
Would it help if you stood up?
No, I'll sit up.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm trying to lean in here, so. But I served from 1992 to 2004. And then again, from 2008 to 2012, and just ran for the rec board 3 years ago for my 5th term, and this is now going to be, if I'm elected, my 6th term. You might think that's excessive, but it has been an honor and a privilege to grow EPRD along with the growth of this community. In 1992, EPRD really owned no land. We had the rec center at Wulf, and it was built on school property for $1 a year lease. And we didn't own the land under the lake house when it was being built. And it was really an amazing revelation. And in that interim period between 1992 and 2004, we preserved Noble Meadow, and we bought most of the land at Buchanan Park, and we bought land at Marsdale so we could turf the fields, and really grew the district according to how the population grew. And we were steady with it and making changes as the years progressed. I am running primarily now to keep going our strategic plan. Our strategic plan was initiated when Betsy and Mary and I got elected, and we are right in the middle of this strategic plan. We are just now beginning to implement the improvements to Buchanan Park, and I think that having continuity of leadership is critical to the success of this strategic plan, which is fundamentally why I'm running. In talking about the district, I find it just amazing when you really look at the numbers. Each rec center, when you combine them, had about 100,000 visits annually, not including the lake and not including the ball fields and all of that. We are of incredible service to this community. We're the largest employer. Our payroll for staff is almost $4 million, and when you add in all the instructors and everything, it's almost $5 million annually. We are the largest employer in Evergreen. The last question was the challenges ahead. I'm going to answer that. Because I think implementing this,
That's up to you.
implementing the strategic plan is really job one. And I think that is the most important task ahead of us. Thank you.
Jeffrey.
Hi there, I'm Jeff Riddall. I live over in Elton. I was born in Washington State, grew up in Idaho, and I lived and worked in Tahoe and San Francisco and LA, and then I moved to Australia for 15 years. A lot of my life was in construction and the service industry. And then in the 1997, my mother became ill, so I moved back. And then I ended up in Denver to spend some time with my sister. And I worked at the Sports Authority, and that's where I met my wife. We had to join in cubicles. And she wanted to live in the mountains, and I wanted to live in the city, right? Green Acres, sort of. And she had a house at Alice St. Mary's, and I couldn't live at 10,000 feet. And, you know, I could barely breathe. So we decided to sell houses, and we found a piece of land here in Evergreen. And we've been here almost 20 years. So I'm running sort of as a disruptor. But first, let me say, I think the EPRD has done a wonderful job. I think that Peter has shown great leadership. For what I know, I haven't really been paying that much attention over the years, okay, until recently. My issues are mainly wildfire preparation, which really isn't the purview of EPRD, but I do know that they have discussions with EFR and other entities around here about those sorts of things. For instance, at the town hall, one of the engineers talked about the work that's going to be going on downtown, Highway 73, Cub Creek Bridge. They're replacing that, they're modifying that, and I asked Nancy of Chamber of Commerce if she knew that they were taking into account, you know, wildfire concerns, right? She said, oh yeah, we're thinking about that. Me too, because if any of you have gone to Flying J, right? And you walked up that road there and you see where they clear cut instead of just mitigating, they chopped down all the old growth trees there. And our old growth trees, be surprised, right? You don't know already, they don't have to get big like ponderosas in California. We have 3 trees on our property that an arborist said were at least 200 years old, right? And they're maybe this big, right? So that concerns me and my family, clear cutting. And I know that Jeffco controls that land, as far as I understand, and that they're the ones who did that. And there's a lot of people who are disturbed by that, right? But mainly, do we have a voice in the community? Do we have leverage, I mean, we can talk to Leslie Dahlkemper, District 3 County Commissioner, right? She represents us at the county level. And try to see what's going on, but it seems rather hodgepodge to me, and I'd like to find out more, okay, about the wildfire. Second is the possibility of home rule, what's the other term for it?
Incorporated.
Yeah, incorporation, sorry, I was forgetting. Our lesson learned, because here in Colorado it's called home rule, but the media and everybody else calls it incorporation. So I would like us to get involved with that too. That's really linked, the wildfire thing and incorporation. I know from the town hall, it's on what appears to be everybody's minds, okay? At least at, that level. The third thing is a dog park. Leslie Dahlkemper committed $1.2 billion to a dog park 3 years ago through open space. And as long as EPRD runs it, right? Because really they're the logical entity, Parks and Rec, to run a dog park, off leash, controlled. You pay something for it. Your resident annual fee, daily fees, that sort of thing for out of town. So those are the 3 things that I'm running on and I'm concerned about. Thank you for your time.
Aaron.
Hey everybody, good morning. First and foremost, thank you very much for spending this Saturday morning with us. I cannot believe how beautiful it's become. When I woke up, I thought, oh, it's going to be a big crowd today. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. I will give you a little bit of personal information and then explain why I'm running and go over what I think the benefits of the current state of EPRD are and what I think the challenges are ahead. So from a personal standpoint, I have lived in Colorado for 10 years, and I have been fortunate enough to live in this district for 5 of those 10 years. It took a very long time. I'm in my late 30s. It took a long time to find the right community, and I feel like there was a little bit of kismet there. I met a wonderful person and partner, and he already lived in Indian Hills, and I was lucky enough to join him 5 years ago. So outside of living here and enjoying the beauty and nature and recreating at the facilities, I'm a fiber artist. I'm involved with the Rocky Mountain Weavers Guild. I'm their treasurer, which I've learned a lot about truly the history of fiber arts in Colorado, just being more involved with them, and I'm hoping that being more involved with Evergreen Park and Recreation District, I will gather some of the history and be able to meet more folks in our community, become more involved. The reason that I'm running for EPRD is it's personal and professional. So I thought, where can I make the most impact in our community, meet the most people, and really start to foster roots in this area? Because my partner and I bought our house last year and are hoping to be here for the long haul. So from a personal perspective, I value time in nature, being with community. Like I said, it took a long time to find the right one, but I think it did. And making an impact. And so with that, again, I felt like the most impactful area is working with Evergreen Park and Recreation District because from a professional standpoint, I am a government banker, and I've done that for over a decade, working with special districts, towns, cities, counties, all the way up to the state. I absolutely love it. I know that putting government and banking together may be boring for some people, but not for me. I absolutely love understanding how districts like EPRD operate from a financial standpoint and planning standpoint. So that's where I thought I would have the most impact. I would say the benefits of the current state is that we have a strong strategic plan. I do think that the board, everybody here has tenure here in the community. They're very involved and they do know a lot of folks here. And I think that the strategic plan is a strong one. I definitely agree with the priorities that they set forth, and I'm really excited for the development and the progress towards the strategic goals. I would say the challenges, the immediate challenge is just setting and managing expectations for the construction to come. I think that most of us here have had some interaction with construction, whether professionally, personally. There are going to be hiccups along the road. Maybe the timeline gets pushed out, or materials are more expensive. So I think that setting and managing expectations within the community on the project plan, it's not just passively putting up a sign to say we're under construction. I think that there's going to need to be a proactive effort to get out and explain what's going on and be very, very transparent about it. I would say an ongoing challenge is just meeting the needs of our evolving community. I mentioned this the other night at the other forum, that I'm very much a part of the changing and evolving community. I'm proud to live in Evergreen, to ask any of my friends and clients. And I think that it takes a lot of work to proactively go out and gather insight from the community. So one thing I'd like to offer, one thing I would like to offer to the community is office hours. And I do want to check with the business. I have one in mind where I will be there, whether once a week or once a month. I'll figure out the right cadence and what they're comfortable with. But just to be out in the community and have a place for everybody to come and interact. Maybe it's a cup of coffee that we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Betsy, okay.
Thank you, Kay. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Betsy Hayes, and I am the current president of the board of Evergreen Parks and Recreation. And as Peter said, Peter, myself, and Mary, we were elected 3 years ago to the board, and it really has been an honor to serve this community in trying to make sure that we're finding out what people want and need with our whole strategic plan process. We've talked about the plan, but it didn't happen overnight. Over these last 3 years, we've gotten community input in a variety of ways, because as we know, it can be a challenge to get information in and out in the mountain community. So we have got all the information together. The strategic plan got created and approved, and this next term, I'm hoping to serve on the board again, because we are moving on, as Peter said, to implementation, execution. That is something that I have strong passion for and skill for. I like to get things done. My family and I, we've lived here in Evergreen 30 years. My husband and I, we have 3 kids, and they all grew up here in Evergreen, so we've attended Montessori and the Bergens and the middle school and Evergreen High School, and I've been the PTA president and volunteered a ton, science fair, love all that stuff, because I just love working with people in this community and giving back. Our kids all worked for Evergreen Park and Rec, so I've been involved with the rec center for a really long time. You may have known about me or heard of me with my various jobs I've had here in the community. I've done fundraising and events for Mountain Area Land Trust, downtown Evergreen businesses, Most recently, I did all the fundraising and events for Mount Evans Home Health Care and Hospice. I also am a former president of the Evergreen Chamber of Commerce, and I was especially honored and took the opportunity to help businesses when I was the president of the chamber during COVID. Because being someone who's helping to represent businesses and helping businesses to make some money in an environment when the government says everything is shut down. It was a real challenge and an opportunity to work with the businesses, and I did my best to be able to help everyone survive that turmoil. And then, as I said, most recently I was at Mount Evans Home Health Care and Hospice, and I did retire just a year ago, which gives me a lot more time to be able to work with Evergreen Park and Rec. I've been on the subcommittee for various things, the pool subcommittee, the strategic plan subcommittee. When I came on the board, I said I wanted to get 3 things done the first round, and that was to help onboard our amazing executive director, Corey Vanderveen, and he's just doing a fabulous job. Work with the staff and the other board members to make sure that that Evergreen Lake North Trail project got completed on time and under budget, and that got taken care of. And then, of course, the strategic plan in place and now ready for execution. So I really am, fingers crossed, going to get back on the board because I want to keep going, working with the staff and my other board members to get the job done for this community. What are the challenges we're going to have? There is a lot to get done, and as Erin said, communication out into the community about expectations, timelines, costs, all those things. We really have to work on that because not everything can get done at the same time, not all at once. We have to do things logically so we can make sure to get them done effectively and efficiently and within budget. So thanks very much for being here today and appreciate the opportunity to see all of you.
Thank you, Betsy. Ellie Hinsford was not able to make it this morning, and so we have Jess Hastings sitting in for her. And Jess is going to read her bio statement and perhaps answer a couple questions from some notes that Ellie gave you. But be clear, you're not voting for Jess. You're voting
I'm here for Allie.
Please.
So again, I am here for Allie today. So as a committed member of our community and as someone eager to share her passion for EPRD and explain why she believes she can better provide perspective to the board, Allie Hagelford is so sorry she cannot be here with you this morning. As a mom of a preschooler and a second grader, she unfortunately could not cancel a long-awaited mother-daughter trip with her 7-year-old to the most magical place on earth. Although, to be honest, Allie would argue that actually the most magical place is here in Evergreen. While originally from the Cincinnati area, Allie and her husband always dreamed of planting their own roots somewhere they could raise their kids with tons of outdoor natural activities, but with enough community to feel that sense of belonging and contribution. They moved to their home here 4 years ago, but Allie began dialing herself in with EPRD nearly 2 years prior. That's how important community building groups are to her. She has long emailed feedback on events and classes, taken surveys, and generally rooted for our success. Because EPRD success translates to our collective community's benefit. While the rec centers and spaces for activity and growth in a variety of areas are incredibly valuable to have accessible here, the most important thing EPR does is actually helping to build our community itself, bringing people together for campouts on the fields, giving kids an after-school play space together, offering us communal environments to be together here within our beautiful natural environment, letting us interact and grow friendships and partnerships. We are so lucky to have a Parks and Rec group like EPRD, and Allie has loved watching the evolution even over just the last few years, from event cancellations coming out of COVID with not enough registrations, to the actual addition of even more amazing events like Frostival and giving back to community 4th of July Festival that had gone away, to seeing family and kids events sell out, with some expanding over multiple date options like this year's Haunted Glow experience, to the announcement of consistently scheduled parents' night outs, something Allie suggested a few months ago. If families know there are reliable options to schedule around, they'll take better advantage of all EPRD attempts to provide. Parent night outs will now be every other week, rotating between Buchanan and Wulf. It would still be great to see an earlier time frame, but one thing at a time. Allie would also like to see Play School offered more and advertised. Low numbers led to the decrease in time that Play School is actually available. Leading up to those counts, though, parents had a hard time knowing if they could rely on it, so they stopped considering it as an option, which is a shame for the one thing available to kids 2 and under, a segment that EPRD could be providing more for, in the form of baby and me music circles or similar classes for both caregivers and the young. On the flip side of the youth spectrum, our teenagers need more indoor low-cost options in Evergreen. A member of the Youth Advisory Board recently held a feedback session with classmates and presented findings to the board, which definitely deserve to be rewarded with more activities. This could be as simple as an organized board game night as designated hangout, or as involved as partnering with the middle school to spruce up their track and field space, creating more room for programming and play. EPRD's recent partnership with Seniors for Wellness is a great example of what can be done when we work together. They're helping to increase socialization amongst our senior residents, which will do so much for their lives. Allie believes similar collaborations can happen across the board for our community. Allie's running for the board because she's passionate about what they do for our area. They provide opportunities of all kinds to the people here. They build up our community, and she wants to see that go even further. About a year ago, she and her family attended the Walk the Park event to learn more about the Buchanan plans, which motivated her to start attending the monthly board meetings back in September. In November, she encouraged the board to go back to offering a virtual option for people to attend these meetings from home. And in March, she further encouraged them to keep that virtual option going. That encouragement may have simply come from her silent head nods in the audience, but she felt it was important to root for that service. Making access to EPRD easier makes it easier for residents to engage. Experiencing these meetings as a member of the public inspired her to strive for a position on the board so she can more effectively advocate for all of Evergreen. The projects in the works are meaningful and will impact our region for generations to come, not just in the way they'll offer physically a pavilion, courts, playground, and so on, but on the programming possibilities these new spaces will allow for, and the opportunity to provide for even more people. While Allie has contributed to several areas of our community, PTA member, Ruth Perrin, and yearbook editor for Bergen Elementary, fire ambassador and design review chair for HOA, co-founder of the Trails Collective, working with Champions of Evergreen to keep their neighborhood in the know on potential Bergen Meadow plans, Allie is most excited to drive her energy even deeper into EPRD. To be honest, she'll continue her involvement even if it's still from the audience. But she knows having an official voice at the table will bring perspective to the board in all of the decision-making they have in the years ahead, so that we can shape an even better green for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Mary, before you go, I just noticed that the executive director for Evergreen Park and Rec District is here. Corey Vanderveen is sitting back here. Corey, you don't have to answer any questions today. Thank you for joining us, though. Okay, Mary McGee.
Hello, everyone. I've owned my house here in Evergreen for over 30 years, so you know what that makes me, a short timer here. Peter's lived here about 50 years. I ran for the board last time because I had noticed EPRD did not have a strategic plan or a citizen community survey for over 12 years. And in 12 years, we've added 12 traffic lights between Marshdale and Highway 70. It's like we had not polled the community, figured out how have we evolved over the last 12 years. So one of my first things that I wanted to do was to do a citizen survey and figure out what's going to be the trail map for our strategic plan. The other thing was the North Lake Trail. That had been languishing for over 5 years, so we needed to complete the Loop Trail. That has been the crown jewel of our community and brings everybody together. It's like I realized also from being here, when I walked in the door of EPRD Wulf Rec, we didn't have, well, when I moved here, we didn't have a lake house, we didn't have Evergreen Parkway, we didn't have Buchanan Rec Center. When I walked in the doors of Wulf Rec, I realized that we needed to do things a little better. The folks at the rec centers were not listening to the community. They were not supporting the programs that people wanted. So I thought I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and I got elected 3 years ago. So I'm the first vice president, and I am proud of the accomplishments that we've had over the last 3 years. not only the North Lake Trail, but we finally fixed the doors at Wulf that were banging against the side of the building in the wind. So every few years we'd have to replace the front doors. They were breaking the glass against the side of the building because they catch the wind. We now have sliding automatic pocket doors. We have 36 new pieces of weight room equipment in both the Buchanan and Wulf Rec. The pool had a piping, heating, and valve problem, so we had to drain the Wulf pool. But we made lemonade out of lemons because we used muriatic acid and cleaned the entire pool. The pool is spick and span. All the grout, the bottom of the pool, everything has been scrubbed clean. So, and then filled back up with water. So the pool is hopefully good to go for another couple of years because it will take a couple of years to build another pool. Pools don't just happen overnight, you can't do a lot of construction in the winter. We're working on funding right now. The Wulf pool is 52 years old. We don't own the land on which Wulf pool sits. So if we expand the pool amenities, it makes more sense to do it over at Buchanan Park and over on land that we own. So if the school district, would agree to sell us the land that Wulf sits on, it might be a different story, but that's not the case right now. So another priority is to build a pool because you can't have a rec center. Can you imagine a YMCA or a recreation center without a pool? I can. So you have to have a pool. And if we let the pool just fail and then issue a bond to the community to say, it's going to take us $10 million, we vote for a bond and increase your taxes that you pay to pay for a pool, it's still going to take 2 years, and I can't imagine us without a pool. So we have to start now. We have to plan. We have to start now with funding, finding construction people because it's going to be a while. No pool has ever lasted more than 60 years here in Colorado. The one in Eagle lasted about that long, and then it had a catastrophic failure. So that to me is one of the most important things to get done. The other thing is a gymnasium. We have one gym that serves 23,000 people, and it's over-programmed, overcrowded. There's conflicts between groups using the gym. We need a second gym. We're losing revenue. We can't do all the leagues and programs and after-school activities that a gym requires, especially with our 9 months of cold weather. We need an indoor space. Also, the gym is one of our biggest revenue producers. Lake House is our biggest revenue producer with the weddings and all the events held there, and the gymnasium brings in the most money. So it makes sense to do a gym. It's needed, and okay, my time is up. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, so now we're going to open it up to questions from you and answers from you guys. And we'll start with Jeffrey and rotate through as each question is asked. And before we get started, when you ask your question, just so everybody can hear, please stand up, say your name, state your favorite Evergreen Park or Recreation Center, and then ask your question. So we'll see if everybody can do that.
What's the time on answers here?
The time on the answers is 2 minutes. And if a question comes up that you don't want to answer, just say pass, and we'll go to the next person. Okay, who'd like to start? Yes, Barb.
I have a very simple question. My name is Barb Frost. What was I supposed to say?
Favorite recreation
Favorite
center
oh, I
or
like them all.
park?
Was there another part?
No.
I just want to know how one can find that strategic plan to look at it and read it.
You can have my copy right here.
Is it online anywhere?
It's online. Go to www.evergreenrecreation.com.
Written out?
Yes.
Evergreen Recreation?
No underscores, no dashes, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, I don't know if any of the rest of you can answer that. Okay, go Diane.
All right. Diane Conway. I actually live in Indian Hills. So I guess, I use Arrowhead Park probably more than anything else, to the community center. And first of all, thank you for supporting Indian Hills, especially during the centennial. Corey and his group have been awesome. And as taxpayers in the district, the Indian Hills community appreciates that. So I guess it brings up, we talk a lot about Wulf and Buchanan and the lake, and there's other parts of the district. So I'd be interested in, and I haven't read the strategic plan, and there's probably something in there, but there's a lot of other space, and what does that mean in your plan?
Jeffrey?
I'm probably not best, I'll have to pass on that.
Okay, Erin?
Okay, well, first of all, I mentioned that I did live in Indian Hills, and I can understand sometimes it does feel like an isolated part of the district. I think a lot of that comes with just truly how spread out the community is in Indian Hills and not having a main street like Evergreen. So I feel like Evergreen does get quite a bit of press. So I think to include the greater community, I think it involves us being in the greater community and attending events in all the parks and throughout, and just doing that, the legwork to get out and interface with folks. You mentioned using Arrowhead Park. We did as well. We lived across the street, there's a fire station, and I loved seeing all of the programming there while I lived there. I felt like we were truly part of the district. And so I understand from a personal standpoint that it is very important to reach out to the communities outside of just main downtown Evergreen and the lake house. So.
Betsy?
All right, thank you. And thanks, Diane, for your question. So in the strategic plan and some of the things that we will be working on for all of the parks across the district, from the Indian Hills Community Center all the way out to Marshdale, and then of course all the way over to Buchanan. Basic needs like the restrooms are always a mess, right? And so staff, the weirdest thing for us as board members when Corey brought to us just when we were doing our last budgeting exercise was that staff wants to take on maintenance of all of the porta potties, if you will, at every single park, because the companies that we have been using are not up to snuff, they're not meeting our needs, and so what we are doing is improving all of those restroom facilities at every single park. We have Kittredge Park, we've done some improvements there. Kittredge actually was a place that was not owned by Evergreen Park and Rec. It was just managed by us, but now that is one of our properties that we own. So we are, kind of doing some improvements by the beach and parking. We're trying to increase parking and improve parking, and working at Arrowhead as well, and Marshdale, wherever we can, figure out small things that make a big impact. So that's what we're working on, that's what's in the plan. You're welcome.
Ellie, Jess?
So Allie did give me a few comments ahead of time, so I will try to make sure that I incorporate her thoughts into these. So these are not my own, these are Allie's specific comments. So in response to that question, Allie would say to listen to and act on the community needs. So Summits of Voices is providing feedback, so Allie is currently organizing a summit of sorts for parents and youth leaders to brainstorm with EPRD on how best EPRD can serve our youth population. Allie would love to do the same for other sectors of the community too. She would also consider more partnerships with another community entity that is providing a service and that EPRD provides space for, or even vice versa.
Thank you. Mary?
I'm well acquainted with Indian Hills. I'm down there every week or so, and I have a friend who lives on Seminole. And Ron Madsen, who runs the community center down there, when we got elected 3 years ago, one of the things he specifically mentioned is he wanted some improvements made to the community center. They needed picnic tables, they needed a concrete pad poured, they wanted a little more landscaping, and to make it more of a park down there. So we have fulfilled most of that. There's still a little more work that needs to be done, but Ron has been a good partner with us. And I think Indian Hills, they often, the residents there don't get up all the way to Wulf or Buchanan, so it's important that we do maintain Arrowhead Park and their community center. I mean, it is on the national map with their billboards and the parables and sayings and, it's good marketing, for Evergreen Parks and Rec. I mean, most people that, when they look at the district boundaries, they don't even realize that Indian Hills is even in the boundaries. And EPRD district doesn't even go as far as upper Bear Creek or all the way up to upper Soda Creek. But Indian Hills is definitely part of EPRD, and the last 3 years we paid more attention to that area. Thank you.
Okay, time for another question.
Oh, can I answer?
I'm sorry, I guess we started with Jeff. I'm sorry, I've got a shortage of
You
you.
can- No, in the past, we've actually had board meetings at the Indian Hills Community Center, and I think we should do that again. And I think it would be a Indian Hills centric board meeting. I think the issues that may not have been said in the past, this would be an opportunity for people to raise their voice for Indian Hills, and I think we should do it.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for stopping me from searching. Okay, Will.
Will Chester, and my favorite amenity of the district is Wulf. And that is my question. It seems to me you're talking about Indian Hills, and as we all have just been discussing, the district is quite large geographically. And Wulf sits relatively central to the overall district. And yet I see a lot of focus on Buchanan in all of your planning. So I guess my question is, given the position of Wulf within the district, its history in the district, clearly the age of some of its assets, particularly like the pool as you were discussing, what is the future of Wulf? How do you see the future of Wulf? I do have a follow-up question, but I can ask that secondly. So.
Thank you. Okay, Erin.
All right, thank you for your question, Paul. I appreciate it. I agree with you. I think there is quite a lot of focus around Buchanan right now. And as I think Mary mentioned, I believe that it has a lot to do with what land EPRD currently owns. I will say I've visited Wulf less than Buchanan as a person that drops in to work out. But I think that we have the opportunity to change the pool that will fail, the 50-plus-year-old pool, eventually into a multi-use space. So I think that there's a lot to come on engaging with the community, collecting opinions on how we should use that space, but I think that there's an opportunity to repurpose it to include even more people outside of just using the pool area. So I understand what you're saying. I can see that too, and I agree. It's central to our district, and I think it's convenient to the folks that may not live directly next to Buchanan.
Sorry, just clarification on language. A multi-use space sounds to me like, so we would eradicate the pool and we would turn it into something else that would no longer be of swimming facilities.
I think it's to repurpose if we're not able to financially support fixing the pool. And again, I'm not on the board currently,
I understand. I just want to clarify for my purposes and maybe everybody else's as well. Sometimes we throw jargon around and it's kind of high. It's like frankly for me, when you refer to your strategic plan, that's my follow-up question. Frankly, is it has a lot. It seems to be a lot of very much of a guiding document, and yet I know there are a lot of questions about its origin, and so you treat it as if it's gospel. Not all of us necessarily look at it that way. But just to clarify, multi-use means no pool. could mean,
I
likely
think it
means
depends
no
on the
pool.
feedback from the community, Will.
Okay, thank you.
Betsy?
Okay. Yes, that means no pool at Wulf. Because what we're doing is we're centralizing the pools onto the land that we own. Because as Mary said, we don't own the land underneath Wulf. So to invest $10 million for a new pool on land that we don't own doesn't make fiscal sense, as well as management sense. But what we've been doing is, and the pool at Wulf then will be repurposed, but it will be converted into, we need more court space, and activity space within Wulf. Of the 4 things that we are working on with the board, we have Buchanan Park, the outside part, Buchanan, the rec center. We have the Wulf is right on the list with, we have money that we're putting aside to revamp Wulf, if you will. We can't do everything at once. We need to make sure that we are moving logically from one project to the next. So once the new pool is open at Buchanan, then we will go ahead and go to Wulf and work on those renovations. And so we do have a budget, it's like 1.5, 2 million, something like that, that we are talking about. And the renovations we've already done at Wulf, we have improved the fitness center, we have redone the playground, we have new gymnastics equipment, so we are investing. 65% of what we do is taking care of what we have, and that's been very important to the 3 of us and the staff and the other board members as we've gone along. So.
Could you just proportion that for me? So
Yeah.
the investments that you're making in Wulf, you said was $1.5 million, and how does that compare to what you're investing in Buchanan?
Buchanan is much higher. Out of 16 million, 1.5 will go to
So
Wulf.
10% is going to Wulf.
I don't have comments from Ally specific to this question, so I'm going to pass.
That's okay, thank you. Mary?
Exactly.
Well,
Thank you.
as will, I live on the south side of Evergreen. So I pass by Wulf, and I actually go in Wulf 4 days a week. And from day 1 when I moved here, I started working out at Wulf Rec Center. So I've noticed some improvements, like the last couple of years, not only the doors, but we've redone the tile in the ground in the women's locker rooms, if you've ever been in there. Actually, I just showered there last week.
Only half of us are there.
Yes, we don't want to make improvements to Wulf that if we do an entire overhaul on Wulf, we don't want to do improvements that are going to be ripped out. That would just be, we don't want to spend money on something we're going to tear out anyway in a few years. The jury is still out exactly what happens with Wulf. The community input's still needed. What we need is gym space. Right now, their after-school program, parents are working, school lets out early, parents don't have a place or a babysitter. So Wulf Rec is, the kids use the gym a lot. It's a place where parents go and they can play ball in the gym and run around, and it's a lot more space than just a small activity play school rooms. So I think a good use might be of the pool is to have it an extra gym space for the kids for after school programs. Another factor that you need to know about the pool is that both the Wulf pool and the Buchanan pool lose about $500,000 a year, and it's just the nature of running pools. YMCA's have that problem also. And one of the biggest expenses are HR expenses with the lifeguards. So you have to have 2 lifeguards in every pool. If we can combine the lifeguard staff to just one pool, we will lose a lot less money. So combining the lifeguards in one pool makes sense. EPRD won't lose as many of your tax dollars trying to maintain the pool and having duplicate staff.
Okay, thank you.
Peter,
And I had my
No,
fingers
I-
crossed, I remember. Goddamn Peter. And Jeffrey too, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So one of the things that has suddenly happened in the district is City and County of Denver saw the lake house as a little bit of a gold mine in terms of revenue because they own the land underneath it. It's Dedees Park. And we have spent, Corey, how long's it been, 5 years?
Plus.
It was actually 7 years to
7
negotiate
years.
that contract.
Trying
Yeah.
to get Denver and EPRD to agree on terms that will ensure autonomy for the lake house and yet satisfy their needs to get some sort of revenue from the land underneath the lake house. This is the conundrum that you face when you don't own the land that is underneath your improvements. The school district has been wonderful for all these years. It's $1 a year. But the school district is coming up against budgetary requirements. We look at possibilities of what they might do with respect to Wulf and say, hey, we need X% of your gross revenue because we own the land underneath. So the whole idea of owning the land that you're going to improve has been a fundamental guideline for the district. And I think Buchanan, yes, it's out. There's no question of the locale. But I think owning the land underneath is a big deal for EPRD, and it sets the priorities for what we're doing.
Jeff?
Question, Mary. Is there a swim team?
Yes. Yes, there's a hurricane swim team. They pay EPRD $60,000 a year to use the Wulf pool, so we do get revenue from the swim team. There was a contract a long time ago in the early 70s. The Wulf was built to service the swim team. That was its whole raison d'etre. So we spoke with the swim team. Corey spoke with them. They are okay with having their practices at a new pool at Buchanan.
And you're talking about the high school swim teams?
Yes.
Not the pay-to-play hurricanes, because there's boys and girls. Their seasons are different, but.
I'm asking this to develop my learning. Does Conifer High have a swimming pool?
No.
Okay. But it's just outside of EPRD's boundary? Okay. So, the way I look at it is maybe trying to overlap things here. So let me do this quick. Highway 74, north-south, going by El Camino, right? We get Chinook winds along there. And if you guys remember the fire that we had in Denver just recently, right? Just south of Boulder. Winds blew over electrical line, right? Created the fire, and then the winds took out the subdivision, right? That's a possibility that could happen here. So if you did say get a fire that started north and came down 74 on both sides, well, Highway 74 goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. We'd be trapped. I've actually got another fire that I wrote about in California that exactly this happened. They got trapped. 9 people died in their cars, 85 people in total died. What I'm driving at here is a possibility that maybe we need a bypass. 74, bypassing the lake north, something like this, connecting with 73 so that we have an outlet. But if you had that, you would also make those areas in the back, in the rural area, like around Wulf, right? They would have faster access to Buchanan. On the other hand, if you think about it like this, if Evergreen High and Conifer don't have a pool, right? Maybe they should conspire to have a pool that would also be for the community. So that's the sort of way I would approach it. It might be a little silly to talk about because of the sheer amount of money that it would cost. But, we're not really rural anymore, at least a mile each side of 74. So, think about that.
Thank you, Jeff. And I started with you on this one. Okay, so Betsy, you're gonna be up on the next one, and I promise not to do it again. I'm holding this pen in my hand to remind me.
Okay, I'm effective.
He'll
Guaranteed.
remind
I'm thinking
me.
like a pen.
Yeah, we have your back, Wolf.
So,
Thank you, thank you. Okay, another question. No?
Well, I just have kind of a follow-up question for the last one.
Sure.
When you talk about a pool at Buchanan, because there is a pool there, but you mean like a bigger, more deeper,
An extension.
okay.
Right, so what's happening is we have the leisure pool, or the warm pool it's called. Over at Buchanan, we put in new features for the kids. The vortex is there, the whole interior of the pool was recently redone. Then, if you think of it as an L, right next to that pool is where the well that the lanes go in is going to be.
Oh.
So it'll be like an L shape, and then there's that patio that faces the pond. What we'll be doing is activating that area so people will be able to use that in the summer. Those pools will be connected, attached. So what will happen in the lap pool, if you will, because it's exactly replacing Wulf. Before Wulf stops working, it's the plan, because it'll take 2 years to get it done. Like permitting and working with Jeffco, all of that stuff takes 9 months. So we won't even begin construction until probably January or so.
Thanks.
Will had a question.
Oh, follow up on that one?
No, I don't, no,
Okay.
no, separate question.
Okay. Ally,
Ally, Jess.
I don't think I have
Yes.
anything else to add.
Okay.
Okay, Mary, do you have anything to add?
I'd like to ask the audience, which rec center do you think has more visitors, Buchanan or Wulf?
Sounds like it's 50-50.
You can.
No,
I think Wolf, because I'm
Right.
Interesting.
Yes, yes. Because of all the programs and leagues and kids and gymnastics and the pool, Buchanan only has two lap lanes for that big rec center. Wulf has got the 6 lanes. Wulf Rec Center, a couple years ago, had twice as many visitors as Buchanan, which is a surprising thing, yeah.
And so is there, I haven't been part of any of this for a long time, my son's old now. But do they have after-school programs at Buchanan also?
They have a play school there, yes, and after-school programs. They even have transportation. There's even EPRD transportation that will bring some of the kids at Bergen over to Buchanan for after-school programs.
But not as extensive as the ones at
No, it's all kind of concentrated.
Yeah.
And to Diane talking about Indian Hills, it would be nice if maybe EPRD at some point, if we have the funds to provide from Parmalee Elementary up to some of the programs also.
School districts.
Yeah.
Peter, do you have anything to add?
no. And you called on me, damn it.
Yes, I remember, because I'm holding a pen. Jeff?
What's the outstanding question right now?
Well, we were kind of just talking about what would the new pool at Buchanan be?
I'm not an incumbent, I have limited knowledge.
Erin, do you have anything to add?
I do. I will say that I've learned quite a bit about the district in the last year or so when I was deciding to commit time and effort into this. And I've learned quite a bit about the pool and the planning. And I'll say I think the most critical piece of learning the details of what the board is planning was attending the last board meeting. The level of detail is unreal. So, and I understand if people can't attend in person, the district did launch, I think Ally mentioned this, did launch the ability to join online. So, yeah, and it just is.
I'm just getting back into being interested in all these things. So.
Absolutely, and I'm just learning them. So, so I will highly encourage you to join the board meetings. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Can I just add one more thing?
Let's go with Karen first, and then somebody back here.
Will had his hand up.
Well, somebody here did.
Well,
You've met him.
yeah, I've met him. Okay, let's go with Karen and then Will.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Okay, you said 60,000 a year the high school pays.
Yes.
No, that's the private swim team, the Evergreen Hurricanes.
Okay,
It's
so
a private team, the high
you
school
get
doesn't
60
pay.
grand a year, right?
Yes, but the high school swim teams don't pay.
The high school's what?
The high school swim teams don't pay to use the pool.
Okay,
The Hurricanes team.
well,
Their team
I
does.
don't know if that.
Yeah, the team-
The team does.
Okay,
The big team does,
if
which
you
is
can
a private.
secure that income, that would go a long way to servicing 10 million bucks.
Well-
60,000?
That's, it's about 100 years, you know. Yeah, it would take a while.
That's fine.
But if they're charging fees to the public as well, maybe that would improve the matter.
We can't charge enough fees to actually cover the cost of running the pool.
Swimming pools are
Yeah.
always a loss leader. They always are in public parks and rec. But we gotta have them. We gotta have them, we gotta take good care of them. So. Karen?
Okay, Karen Mather, and I live near Buchanan. My question is, when you do surveys, a lot of the participants say, take care of what we've got.
Yes.
What does that mean to you, and what percentage of the budget goes to maintaining existing facilities?
Okay, I think it's.
That's you.
Jess. Jess. Okay.
It's our job.
What do you want me to
Otherwise,
add?
Mary's been the treasurer for
Jess,
2
you
years.
have that night?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, don't let me forget that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary.
Yes, so when we did the community survey, which led to the strategic plan, the overwhelming vote of the people was to take care of what we have. So we have 1.3 million to spread around the different rec centers and parks to take care of what we have.
And that's per year.
And that's per year, yes, and that's in perpetuity, amazingly, because of the vote in November 2023. So in order to pay for the pool, we're going to use, after we take care of everything we have for last year, this year, we're going to use that 1.3 million to finance a new pool. So we won't go beyond that debt limit, that's our guardrail, because that's guaranteed income. If you do a certificate of participation, some rec centers leverage their park land in order to establish the collateral for the COP. We don't want to do that. We don't want to have a COVID year where we lose our park land to pay a debt we had. So the responsible thing to do is to use that 1.3 million then in the future to finance the pool and only pay that every year to pay off the debt. What we've done, we've made ADA compliant the playgrounds all around the rec center. As you know, a wheelchair can't roll on wood chips, so it's been replaced by a surface that a wheelchair can roll on. A future possibility is making it not only ADA compliant, but universally compliant, which is a stricter government guideline for playgrounds to be universally compliant. And that would mean a disabled person could go from their car all the way, there's no steps, all the way from their car to the playground and actually use the features in a playground. They're wheelchair adaptable. So, for example, the handrails might be a little smaller. If you've got Down syndrome, your hands are smaller, so it'd be a smaller handrail on things. So, anyway, so we're using the 1.3 million for upgrades at all of our parks and Buchanan and, for example, the pickleball court also. We just spent $300,000 resurfacing, adding fencing, adding new pickleball courts. So that's what we've been doing to take care of what we have.
Okay, Peter.
I was talking to a rec center user the other day, and she was lamenting about the condition of things at Buchanan in the women's restroom. And I said, imagine having a dinner party for 25 at your house every single night, and what kind of shape your house would be in. And there is an incredible amount of maintenance that needs to happen for all of these buildings and all of these parks. And we are taking care of what we have. We are not only maintaining, but I believe we are improving for the best all of our facilities. And I congratulate Corey and and his park staff for what they've done to make this place better. There was an incredible amount of deferred maintenance that occurred during COVID. A lot of things were left to languish, and Corey, once he became director, recognized me. He had a whole slideshow of the condition of this path and the bathrooms and all of that.
Yeah, we didn't want to see that. We're like, oh my God.
So we are taking care of this minute by minute, dollar by dollar, and without losing sight of these grand improvements that we need to make to stay up with the demand of our citizenry. And we're doing them both at once, and I give a lot of credit to Corey for leading the charge on this. Thank you.
Jeff?
It's my nature to always look for compound ways to use area space that you have, right? Create more income, more opportunities. That's part of what I think they're doing in the rec center, right? The new addition and all that, multi-use, so forth. I'm not really talking about maintaining. I'd just like to go to another place here. So going back to your question, sir, cover a wide area, but most of the people are within, half a mile or so of Highway 74 down the lake or so forth. Then it gets real thin. If you look at the heat map, if you're trying to serve everybody, part of that goes to what kind of access they have with the roads, It would be good to look at that from the perspective of EPRD as a Parks and Rec, right? To say, how can we improve access in that regard by influencing, say, Jeffco roads and so forth, because Jeffco is very inconsistent in the way that they handle the roads around here. Some neighborhoods that are very rich have brand new paved roads, and then others don't, right? But it all goes back to, layering, wildfire, public access, trying to serve everybody within the boundaries. The swimming pool is a long ways away. It's a far drive for a lot of people to get there. How can we improve that in the long term? How can we look at the bigger picture? Thank you.
Erin?
Thank you for your question, Karen. Just to restate, what does taking care of what we have mean to me? So I think it actually, to add on to what Peter said about knowing what we need to do as far as maintenance goes, in my perspective, I think we need to go above just maintenance. I think we need to enhance what we have. I think that'll go a long way, especially to include even more people from our community. So my answer is short, but I know that the district cares greatly about delivering a quality experience, and I think that not only maintaining but enhancing what we have will lead to a greater increase to our quality of life of our community.
Thank you. Betsy?
Okay. And everything's pretty much been said. What happens in the budgeting process every year is Corey and the staff bring to us the CIP project, which are the capital improvement projects. And what that means is that we are working our way through all of these things that were deferred maintenance that need to get fixed. So things like rusted out railings, the doors at Wulf, those types of things that EPRD could not afford to stay on top of. 65% of what we've been doing over the last few years is all maintaining what we have. And then what we are doing is working on rebuilding and expanding recreation for the community.
Allie, Jess?
Thank you for letting me have a little extra time to collect Allie's thoughts.
You channeled your Disney.
So Allie, a big proponent for Allie is community engagement. And so in order to continue to maintain the programs we have, we also need to maintain participation or even increase participation. So Allie would like to ensure that access is easier So that could include actual links to register when advertising different events, something that EPRD has started doing more often lately after Ally suggested it a few months ago. Announce event dates or class sessions way earlier than has been the trend to give people time to make it a priority and keep their calendars open for EPRD. The new Parents' Night Out announcements are doing a great job for this and providing dates for the fall already. And then even potentially getting back to other forms of communication like mailers. So that way the community members can be more aware of what EPRD is offering currently and maybe even reach more individuals than we are today.
Okay.
Do you have more? We have time for more?
Yeah, one more. Will,
She's got a question.
and there's one over here too. Okay. Let's.
I'll pass.
You'll pass. Okay.
I'm Heidi Buchanan, Zumba at Wulf and Skate the Lake. I don't even know if you have money from Skate the Lake. Sun Fest, Chili Fest.
It goes to Active for All, a lot of those events.
Okay, so maybe you can, but anyways, what I was gonna ask is, we talked a little bit about a pool, you mentioned a bond. Are there other things in the large capital budget that will have taxpayer consequences?
Who's first? Technically, you're up.
All right, we all pay property taxes. If you've got a $1 million house, EPRD gets about $380 every year from your property taxes. The school district gets 40% of your property tax money, and EPRD gets only 6% of your total property tax bill. So it is amazing how much we can do with that 6%. So as far as like financing, we had a couple choices in 2023. Do we ask the public for bond money to build a pool and build a gym? Or do we ask the public just to continue what they have been paying on their property taxes? And we figured that was an easier pill to swallow, and we would be able to pass that easier than a bigger bond or asking for two separate bonds. Nobody wants to have a special district ask you for, to approve a $10 million bond one year, and then the next year on your election ballot, you're asked for more money. You think, what did you do with what I just approved, for you? So we wanted to go to the public once, and then try to make that stretch and be as fiscally responsible as we could. So we got the one bond, thank you, passed in November 2023. That gives us the $1.35 million to take care of what we have, and then build the gym and the pool. So thank you.
I appreciate your fiscal conservancy.
Thank you. Yes, that's a passion of mine, yes.
Peter.
I think it would be interesting to note that all the money we borrowed over all of these years to save Noble Meadow and buy all the land at Buchanan Park and build the rec center and buy Stagecoach Field and do turf fields at Marsdale, all that money as of this year will be paid off. And according to what Mary said, the revenue that we had asked for, that you have been helping us fund every single year, we asked you last November to continue that revenue stream. And this is this $1.35 million that we're going to get annually, actually in perpetuity. It did not raise anyone's taxes who had been here for the last 20 years. And it is a budget goal that we have. Our goal is to not spend more than we can borrow, number one, but to allocate it properly to a pool, to a indoor courts, whether it be a field house or a new gym, and other improvements at Buchanan, and try to sustain this revenue picture and gauge it across the whole entire district, so we are not spending more of your money and we are just keeping everything as good as it can be across the district. And this is the goal of the board and staff that we've stated, and this is always here in the back of our minds that this is a fixed amount of money and we have to allocate it properly.
Jeff?
So fiscal conservatism. So, I made a video trying to get a dog park. So we haven't had a dog park for 8 years. The old dog park was too big. It's too steep. So I made a video, sent it to Dog Camper. She said, I like that. And then she invited me to a meeting with Open Space and EPRD 3 years ago. And we came to an agreement that Jeffco's not in the business of doing dog parks, although they are, but that they'll offer $1 million for land and 200 grand for the infrastructure. It's sitting there, it's already there. You don't have to raise it, you don't have to write a grant for it. Okay? I'm telling you, more people here than elsewhere are older. They have dogs for companionship, for safety. And I've got a neighbor with Parkinson's. She tries to walk her dog, and the dog pulls her down all the time, and it's a trained dog. Okay? So, the thing about a dog park is, there seems to be a lot of people that just don't want it. But, almost half of all households have dogs. And up here in Evergreen, they're generally bigger dogs, they're not pocket dogs. Okay? So I'm trying to help the community. We already got the money in place. We need EPRD to get serious about it, make it a priority, and make it happen. And if you don't like dogs on trails, that'll probably help the matter, you know, because they'll go to the dog park. And the dog park will pay for itself because at per Jeffco's numbers, we had 4,000 cars per week using the old dog park. Okay, it's not about that there isn't customers available. Okay, and people will pay $120 bucks a year. There'll be money to run it and do the infrastructure and keep upkeep on it. It's there.
Can I just say, EPRD has it as a priority, and it is a big priority. It's not a part of what this panel is discussing today, but I just need to step up and stand up for EPRD. It's a very difficult proposition, and they've looked at many properties. And so it is a priority, so I think that was misstated, and I just want to clear that.
I'm going to be contrary and say that I don't see it that way. They've never
Okay.
written any special.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
I can't respond.
No, we need to move on because we need to be out
Okay.
at 10:30. Thank
Fair
you.
enough.
Okay, you're.
All right, thank you for your question, Heidi. As a new homeowner, I am acutely aware of our property taxes and everything else that goes into living in Evergreen. But I'm gonna speak from a professional standpoint. So I've been working with governments of all sizes and all sorts of funding sources for the last 10 years, and I will say that the day-to-day folks, especially in special districts, are extremely conservative and they are very careful with public funds. So please know that is always a priority. There's only been one entity in my career that I felt was not great with how they managed public funds, and that's a whole other conversation to have. So I will say that it is always going to be a priority. From a personal standpoint, I care greatly about taxpayer impact, but also a professional standpoint, just know that that is very important to this district. So just by nature, special districts exist to support direct communities. So that's something that is top of mind, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Betsy.
Okay, so back when 6C got approved by the community, Mary and Peter both talked about the 1.35 million. That was the extension of the interest that EPRD was paying on the previous bond that was building Buchanan Rec Center. So we went to the community, we said, will you just continue this in perpetuity? 75% of our community said yes. You can have that extra 1.35, and then we took it with our other board members and staff to try to figure out how can we best spend that. And as Erin said, there's a lot of detail going on at the board meetings, and every decision is not made lightly. There's so many priorities in the community, from dog park, to mountain bike tracks, to indoor walking tracks, to skate parks and playgrounds and doors that are broken. There are so many priorities that we spend a lot of time talking with staff and trying to determine how best to give the community what it needs within our budget constraints. So everyone is always invited to come. You can go on our website, evergreenrecreation.com. Under news and notices, you can get the updates, like the strategic plan will that we were talking about. You can go right there and you can see, okay, what's the latest news? And the Canaan Courier, I know not everyone gets that anymore, but that newspaper, she's doing a great job. The article writer, Jane Ryder, she has covered EPRD, the fire department. She's writing a lot of articles about Evergreen. So I encourage you, if you don't have a subscription, just go to the library and flip through and read what you want to read, and it helps you get the information.
All right, so this may not be directly related, but I think it's still relevant enough that Ally would want to continue that community feedback and especially encouraging a variety of voices through that. Do what we can to speed along the builds that are in the strategic plan. People want to be excited about those projects, but they might be skeptical and afraid too that they will completely to fruition enough or potentially have some spending issues too. So it's helping to progress those along. Keep a pulse on properties for the dog park project, and then entertain quote-unquote can't pass up opportunities if they do present themselves.
Mary.
To answer Jeff's questions a little bit, yes, we have been looking at quite a few dog park properties for the last few years. It's a challenge finding enough acreage, that's not astronomically priced here in Evergreen, that's centrally located for everybody. You don't want to put a dog park in the middle of an HOA community, past a gated community where there's HOA fees. You don't want 4,000 cars driving by a residential area that didn't sign up for that. So we've got to find land that it can't have a stream. It can't has a tributary that ends up in our drinking water. So, and any park around here that has a runoff that goes into Evergreen Lake, that's drinking water for Haiwan. We can't have a dog park there. Extensive tests were done on the water quality. The Friends of Evergreen Dog Park had said, well, it's the cows up off of Stagecoach, back there, that they are contributing to the E. coli. But Jason, the ranger who did the sampling, he took over 50 samples over a period of different months, different times of year, and different times of day. And he took a sample as the water just entered the dog park and a sample of the water as it was exiting. And that was a very controlled scientific study, 50 samples. And so we know that we can't have it near a water source. So it can't be too steep for people with Parkinson's, who want to hike. So the dog park has never left our radar. It's just finding the best piece of land and appropriately managing it.
Okay, thank you. Can we stay another 5 minutes to?
I wanted to let our friends that are running for fire board.
Okay,
introduce themselves
do we have a chance to just wrap up with a minute each and then fire board?
Yeah.
Okay, and before we do the wrap up, so you each have a minute to kind of wrap up. And then there are members of the running for the fire board who are here, who would like to just introduce themselves. And also, Corey, will you be staying for a little bit after so people can meet you? Okay, thank you.
You can stay till 11 if you help me stack the brown chairs.
Okay, sure. Okay. You get to stay if you work for us. Okay, super. Okay, so I think we're back to Peter to start.
To wrap up,
Just a minute each. So please, Peter.
one thing about property taxes, and all your taxes in general, is that every nickel that's raised for our special districts, whether it be water, fire, or rec, through property taxes, gets spent here. All the other taxes you pay get spent not only here, but also elsewhere. So when you pay that $380 $380 stays in this community. And that is just something that I always go back to in terms of the benefits of having really an unincorporated community, which means that all these taxes get spent most efficiently. We don't have to fund local government. All we have to do is fund the improvements that help us all. So that's one point that I'd love to make.
Thank you, Peter. Jeff?
I politely request the board, if you would write down the specifications for North Park, so that people like me, right, can at least know that we take it seriously. Appreciate that. I would just say on another subject, incorporation, is that we're one of the biggest areas, if you define it by EPRD's boundaries, in the mountains that isn't incorporated. Okay? Steamboat, or Aspen, they're all, a lot of them are ski towns, right? We're not. But nevertheless, we are one of the largest that are unincorporated, and it should be considered, especially if, wildfires are on the mind.
Thank you. Okay, Erin.
First, I want to start with thanking everybody for being here today. I think your participation and engagement speaks volumes for our community. It's not lost on me how fortunate we are to live in such a beautiful area. And I really would love the opportunity to move the district forward. And that is incorporating the concerns from this community in the room, the community out there, and the newer folks to our community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Betsy?
Again, thank you also for being here today. I would like to continue serving on the board of Evergreen Parks and Recreation. I've done it for the last 3 years. The skills that I bring to the board and to our community are my connections in the community, and my ability to build consensus, and I really like to get the job done. So, my name is Betsy Hayes. I'm the current president of the board. I would like to serve on the board for the next 4 years so we can implement this strategic plan in a logical and fiscally responsible way for our entire community. So I do ask that you vote for me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Betsy.
Right, Allie Higgleford is invested in EPRD, whether she's on the board or not. However, she feels someone with her dedicated involvement can best serve the community from the board itself. She wants to see Evergreen continue to thrive, and EPRD can help achieve that goal. The more EPRD can do for our community to enhance our community, the better it is for Evergreen as a whole. The more people are out together, the more likely they are to go visit our local businesses and be involved in other ways, making Evergreen an even more likely place for families to grow, and for their kids to want to do the same when they're grown. Allie is so appreciative of those who have worked for decades to shape the Evergreen we have today. She has loved talking with who she feels are some superheroes of Evergreen, committed community members who, over the years, saved Noble Meadow, built us our lake house, developed Buchanan Rec Center, and contributed in countless ways we're all so grateful for. Allie aspires to continue those efforts and is already collaborating with some of those town heroes. She would love the opportunity to work from the board of EPRD, learning even more and helping to shape an even better Evergreen for everyone.
Thank you. Mary?
I know we have a few people with special interests here. Allie's very into small children and the play school and after school programs, and Jeff is into wildfire mitigation and incorporation of Evergreen and the dog park. I have to say, I have a special interest, and it's all of you. It's like my special interests are the people that live here. I've been involved with every aspect of EPRD for the last 30 years. I've been not only a district taxpayer, I'm a professional volunteer there. I work there every week, free. I've lived in the district for over 30 years, and I'm not going anywhere. I've been on the board for 3 years. The first vice president. I was a treasurer for 2 years. That's the best way to get to know any organization, is to see the money coming in and the money coming out. That's where you see, all the hidden agendas and where your money is really going. In 3 years, I've never missed a board meeting. I've never missed a vote, and I will continue to do that if elected again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. May everybody vote by May 6th.
Absentee ballot applications over there. Do it this
Absentee
weekend if you
ballots are
want.
here. You have till Tuesday afternoon.